All right, welcome to the Advisor's Edge. I'm Chad Ramberg here, and we are having our co-host come back, Rob. Thank you for joining us. The show is about, we're happy to have you here. This is good times. The show is about helping advisors more clearly about real decisions that shape the advisory firm, risks, clients, compliance, long-term durability. And today is really cool. We're joined with Andrew from Rossby Financial, and Andrew's doing some really cool stuff out there. So I can't wait to dig into that. So let's just go. How are you, Andrew? Thanks for joining us.
Oh, absolutely. Fantastic. Happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I know it's a bit of a reciprocation, Chad, because you were on my podcast. Rob, I'll bring you on too.
Love it.
Yeah, but nobody listens to it anyway. But
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know what I learned about podcasting? It's not the episode itself. It's the value that you're delivering. It's the content. It's there's always going to be some gold nuggets inside of the podcast. So you take and extract that and you share it with your audience. And to me, that's the real value to it.
Yeah, not everyone's a winner, to be sure. And even for me, the podcasts that I listen to that I like rewatchables. But a lot of the times when I'm listening to rewatchables, I'm like, I don't agree with them, or like, this is terrible. Their best one is the one they did with Bill Hader, and they took a deep dive into why Airplane is the greatest movie ever. And I couldn't disagree with anything that was going on in that podcast. So maybe we can have one like that. So I'm doing well. So what do we want to talk about today? What would you say you do here?
Well, one of the coolest things we do is we like to help advisors do better work, right? Or make better decisions so they can do better with their clients. And one of the great things that you're doing at Rossby is you are, I think of it as almost reinventing how to support advisors doing better for their clients. And so you're going to have to tell us exactly what you're up to there. But I've always been impressed with what you're doing, and what makes it really fun today is we're going to get to dig into exactly what's going on out there, what you guys are doing, what the options are for advisors, because there's so dynamic right now with either like Chuck, the other co-host is Go RIA. You're helping RIAs do that too, or advisors get out there and do the work that they do more independently than what traditionally has been the case. Or at least that's how I see it. So correct me where I'm wrong, or where would you go from there?
So actually, our story, I like to speak in analogies. For any Star Trek TNG fans out there, it's almost like Darmok, which is a great episode. So I laughing. So hopefully you know that one. Like you only speak in metaphor. So I tend to speak in analogies. And for the longest time, I would always say that Rossby Financial is a power company. Is that we are creating power. We are running the cables, taking it to switching stations. We're running those cables all the way up to your house. We're going to bring that power in there. But then once it gets to your house, you do with that power what you fit for your family or your living style. Now, if you abuse the power, we know that. You can't be running an arc welder 24/7 without us saying, like, what are you doing? Right. And so that analogy is that, okay, we're the RIA. And we have to do the things that an RIA does, and then to allow the individual IARs to then perform for their clients. So like, we don't care if you're using Money Guide Pro over Right Capital or Risk Pro over Nitrogen. None of that matters. We're giving you the core things that you need to run that: electronic signature, books and records, archiving and surveillance, compliance oversight, the core thing, a performance reporting tool. Everything else, it's up to you. Okay. So I would always describe us as an energy company like that. But I actually started thinking about it a different way, because people get that. But then our pricing is also so different, in that what we do is we charge an access fee to be part of the firm. And then for the amount of accounts you have, we then have our data charges. So we charge you for the work that has to be done per account that you have. And then if you have additional licensed people in your office, we then charge you a seat fee. And those data charges and advisor fees with volume go down. It's kind of like a cell phone plan. But when people say to me, well, that we're usually something ridiculous like 30 to 50% less expensive than any other firm out there, but it's not cheap. And they say, well, why would you do that? And I said, well, because my libertarian sensibilities do not agree with central planning. I just got really jaded in my 90s Gen Xer attitude that, wait, I'm giving up millions of dollars to this primary firm in payouts, basis points, tech fees, maybe a premium on the E&O, maybe a premium on the, and ticket charges, and then weird ancillary fees, whatever. And then the firm is deciding how to spend that money for me. And like, oh, well, you're paying for the tech stack. Well, now you get this. Okay. But why I call it central planning is that you've overpaid for programs that you never use or you're underutilizing. And I've talked to, in this past week, the 3 offices that I talked to, when I ask them based on where they are, and I'm kind of rambling now, but I'll stop soon. But when they tell me their assets, and roughly they're like between 25 and I think another one was 60 million. And they say, oh, well, at my current firm, which is a standard hybrid that everybody would know, I'm like, well, our platform fees, our program fees are 20 basis points. And I'm like, for what? What does that go to? What can you draw a line to say that this pays for this? You can't. As a former coworker of mine, Ed Cavo, wonderful guy. Get Ed Cavo on this podcast just to tell jokes and just be a great guy. Track him down. He's wonderful. But when something like, he goes, it's Chinatown. You can't look into it. So referencing that great movie. Leave it alone. It's Chinatown. So don't ask questions about what did they do with the money. You're not supposed to ask those questions. Okay, so that's it. I know that was very long-winded, but it's those really 2 things, is that we're a power company. We just want to give you the essential things that you need to operate as an IAR. You're not flapping out in the wind. We don't treat you like an outsource. We're not an outsourced CCO business that kind of doesn't really care what you do. And that's not true. There's great outsourced CCO programs. And also, we're not the hybrids. We are not central planning and deciding for you what is best for your practice. We'll oversee, we'll do due diligence, we'll create documents, we'll help you out with things, but you will know your clientele better. You come to us to help make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do from a regulatory oversight standpoint. There you go. Sorry, that was a lot.
Amazing.
No, it's great. I bet that brings questions from Rob.
Well, my question is always, the way I think about this, Andrew, is what is the number one biggest constraint or bottleneck that most financial advisors have that you can help to solve? So they come to you, they've got this bottleneck or they've got this constraint. What is it that is in their best interest to work with you over someone else who's one of your competitors?
I really think from a functional standpoint, it is 100% our viewpoint of the capital is better spent by the business owner than us. And that is, if you're getting an extra 40, 50, 60, one of our advisors put $500,000 back into their business. If they get better, they get access, they re-access their capital that they have built to better reinvest in their business. So the bottleneck is a blend of being overcharged for things you don't use, but being subject to compliance oversight that is then stifling you further. So it's a blend of the two, is that, wow, I'm giving up so much money, but I'm getting no value in return because I'm being stopped in the new ways to communicate. I can't use any of the AI programs. Oh, my thumbs up went up. That's neat. I can't use the AI programs. I can't utilize a marketing program. I don't have enough funds available to then go and spend on these Social Security benefits seminars. I have to keep, but we unlock that capital so that they can reinvest and do those things. Hopefully that's making sense. It's a blend of the two: compliance constraints, restriction of capital. And those are the two things that we hear the most, or that's where we win the most, is between those two items. Everybody can, you can get trading, you can get product, paperwork, digital signatures, access to FMOs, things like that. But it's compliance and capital, the two C's. Does that help?
That makes sense. It's very similar to the insurance industry. The insurance industry, I always look at distribution as the allocation of capital through the distribution channel. And throughout each stage of that distribution, there are bottlenecks and constraints that can be solved. And the more we can solve those constraints, the more efficient the flow of capital is through the system to free you up to do more things, maybe bring on new team members, bring on new producers. So I really look at the entire distribution as that capital allocation, and the more efficient we can make that system, the better it is for everybody. And I think that's my worldview on that.
Yeah, there's an interesting thing there of that flow of capital, is that it also doesn't just live within our practices. Because I had another one of our advisor offices. They were able to give themselves, we like to use the term uplift in compensation. They uplifted their compensation in such a way that they weren't expecting, that it allowed them to reinvest in their overall enterprise, not just the financial services side of it. And they ended up buying out an additional office condo that they now rent out. So it actually has given them the ability to get to more levels of abundance. And that's what we want to see, is unlocking that capital doesn't just mean that it's going to come back to us or it goes back into the practice, something like that. No, you can now start to diversify your total business. So we like to see that expansion of the business owner advisor, not just, great, we gave you back this money, now go spend it so you gain more clients. You can. Most people do, but that doesn't mean it has to stay here.
That's right.
Yeah, the cool thing is, go ahead.
I just call it the responsible deployment of capital. You're deploying it in the best way that you see fit. And I see, Andrew, that's what you're saying is you're helping your clients and you're helping your advisors more efficiently allocate that capital to their best interest and not your own, and forcing them into this box that we see so often in the industry.
Well, one thing it's really obviously important is the ability of how we use capital. And one thing that I think is really cool that you mentioned there, Andrew, is how the advisor, the person that's closest to the client and serving the client, knows better than you do. Now, there's obviously things that in your position that you know really well. You talked about compliance and how to support that, but really, in just the structure that you're talking about, the being the power company to bring it there, we all need power, right? Even the small office we have here, I got to have power to connect to see you guys. But you're doing it in a way that does give that freedom to the advisor because they know best up front. And the beauty of it, or I think that the real trick there is, and maybe you figured this out early on and why you went this route, is when you do that effectively, it actually helps the advisory team grow, which in turn, they can do a better job for their clients, and their clients grow by nature of it. And then the virtuous cycle is then your team is going to be able to grow too. So you all lift up together. Yeah. I just backed into the uplift of it is more than just the capital allocation, but it's kind of, I'll use another one of your analogies, a rising tide, right?
Yes. Yes. The rising tide, truly the rising tide will lift all ships for sure. I had how should I say this? An industry veteran wanted to not really get into it, but said, well, you'll never make any money doing that. You need to charge basis points. You have to collect those program fees from advisors. And I was like, I don't understand why. Well, and it all centered around, well, no, you have to do it so that you can then buy stuff for you. Literally. So yeah, sure. I'd love to have a McLaren. Sure. That'd be great. Okay. But I feel like I can do that and get there and support my employees and support my advisors without taking from an advisor who goes from 50 million to 100 million, taking $60,000 of basis points that we just charged and take it. The work didn't really increase that much for us. Who did the work? The advisor who went from 50 to 100 million, they did all the work. We didn't do anything. Here's your paperwork. We're going to review, make sure that you aren't harming the client in terms of fees. We'll make sure you do your quarterly attestations, but like we just do operational things. So I'll get it in volume. Just bring it here.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
can I air a grievance on this?
Sure. I love it.
We got to make this fun. I think it's the same thing. I always draw analogies to the insurance industry because I've been in this industry for so long. And I look at the same thing if you have a hard market. In a hard market, what happens? Or a client has losses and all of a sudden their premiums go up. Who's going to benefit the most from that? Right? It's the insurance carriers, and because they've got to make their money back, but it's also the producers, the agency owners, because their commissions are going to go up in direct proportion to a hard market or in the case of losses. And it's like the services didn't change. Like, you're not doing anything more or different, but yet you're going to benefit from your clients' misfortunes of maybe they had a bad loss that was unpreventable, but yet you're going to benefit from that financially in your commission because somebody decided that's the way the system was going to be structured. And it drives me nuts when I think about it.
Yeah. So the insurance business itself is still I still consider it a very straightforward business. It's like, I have a product, or rather I have a thing. I need to insure the thing of catastrophic loss. Great. What's the math around insuring that for catastrophic loss? Okay, it costs this amount of money here and it costs this amount of money here. Okay, great. Transact it. Great. We're done. Okay. Now I'm definitely simplifying it. I'd let you guys chime in on that one. But whereas here on the financial services side, oh my gosh, there's click this button and then there's this. Okay, but did you do something outside? Okay, but was it this custodian over that custodian? Okay, well, who's managing the money? Maybe we are going to get a guarantee on something because we have to add on an insurance wrapper. And I think in that smoke is where firms and so forth come in and say, well, we'll just go ahead and take this hunk of flesh out. Nobody's going to notice. They're not going to. They're not going to know. We're just going to take it. And actually, I think because of that, that's why I've always noticed, as said before, is that a lot of property casualty producing firms and offices, when you see them, and please chime in on this one, I'm going to throw this one out. You tend to see them in more of a conservative lifestyle. Now, they might have like nice things, but they're not rolling around. They're not rolling around in Bentleys acting all this, that, or the other thing. You might see them more. They're running like an F-150 now. It might be a King Ranch, but they tend to stay more conservative on their spend and look than somebody in finance. But it's like they have a very different viewpoint of how they're treating it or how they have to operate because of how premiums and so forth work. Again, I'm talking too much, but does that kind of hit?
Oh yeah,
it's actually true. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
And the interesting thing is on the transparency is a big part of it that you're helping with advisors, because whatever model an advisory firm steps into, right, there's going to be some structure there that they need the support on. But because I want to make sure I don't misunderstand that. What I get from you is the transparency is there to help the advisor understand so they can really develop their own team and do a better job. It's really that simple, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So simple, we probably confuse it, right?
Yeah, it's leaning into, we're all students of the 7 habits of highly effective people, right? We're all, okay. Yep. So if you lean into win, okay. And what you try to work against is compromise. Okay. You don't want compromise. You don't want to compromise. Now, that's not a very staunch, heavy, I'm never going to compromise. No, you don't want the hull of your ship compromised, right? You'll sink or you'll fall out of the sky, right? And so I lean into that win of how does the firm grow and support its employees, its people? We get paid. How does the advisor get to have a more enriching career that they can then expand their holdings, their interests, their support to their clients? And then how do clients at the end benefit from an organization that does not have burdensome costs stacked above them? So how does then that, so to me, that's how we lean into the win-win by what we like to say, pricing is ethics. If we can price ethically for the services that we provide at our level, that 100% can flow right back through to the client. They can absolutely benefit from our structure and advisors working through our structure.
Right. It gives the advisors the capacity to do whatever their clients need. And like you said, they know better.
Yeah. Total, like when you, like we have a cross volume profit calculator on our website. That sounds fancy. It's just to help you figure out what the profit is on your own per account versus what it would be with us. Okay. It's pretty simple. We had an article come out about it. And nevertheless, when an advisor can truly calculate profit per account, and they can then have less accounts with a higher ROI for themselves, that then can enrich that relationship between the client and the advisor, because now there isn't so much pressure I have to have 1,000 accounts. You need 50 excellent accounts.
Yeah.
Well, it allows the advisor to focus on the quality for the client. Maybe that client, the quality is the relationship. Maybe that client is, hey, get tax prep or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you're putting the ability of the advisor to choose what works best for them in their market. And so it truly becomes supportive. You mentioned not basis points. You do more of a flat fee that steps up, but the volume. Can you explain that one more time?
Yes. So I'll come back at it a different way. I referenced cell phone. Okay.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if but this doesn't apply anymore. This only applies for old people like us who know these.
It's a Gen Xers all on the phone here.
Yeah. Remember, you would have your main line. You'd buy your main line, and then you'd have to pay for the amount of data that you used. And then if you added a line, you'd then just pay an extra X amount per month. Okay? So that's really how we operate. There is your main line. So one producer, one DBA, one office, licensed person, talking about a licensed person. Okay. For them to be a part of us, there's a baseline that pays for core services, $20,000. That's what it is. Then for the amount of accounts, data that they have, we then have a sliding scale that's in tranches. So it's like 0 to, what is it? 0 to 100, 0 to 200. I'll get it. Anybody, just call me. I'll give it to you. So it's $7 an account per month. Okay. And then that drops. So once you cross over 100, it drops to 6. Once you cross over 1,000, it drops to 5. And it just keeps going down and down. That if you're over 10,000 accounts, so for a much larger office looking for, like we do like to work with enterprises or any OSJ group, we're a wonderful fit, because then that price drops down to negotiated or 50 cents of what we have to do. Okay, so that comes down the more volume you have. Then for the amount of advisors you have, kind of similar, is that 1 to 3 additional advisors, it's $7,500. 4 and 5, you then drop down to 5,000. That goes back, and then when you're starting to hit 6 and plus, we then drop that thing down. So if you're running an office and you have more than 15 licensed people, securities like Series 65 licensed, then you're looking at only $750 per year per seat. Because at that point, if you have that many people, chances are you probably have north of 5,000 or 8,000 accounts. So we're okay. You're just offsetting some of our internal costs, and we make our money because you have those amount of accounts, because that's where we're doing the work. But that 20,000 stays there. Data charges go down, so it doesn't it's not a hockey stick graph. It's more of a plateauing, gentle rise. And then same thing with the amount of advisors. It'll go up, but it's more of a gentle rise.
Versus the way most of the models are built right now for advisors, it's just a flat, because it's calculated off of basis points. As you grow, they grow, and they get
straight up. So the reference I said before, so if you go from 50 to 100 million, you go 100 million to 250 million. Your basis point, they might say, well, we're going to negotiate with you. We're going to go from 20 to 12. Hey, that sounds great. And then you go from 12. We're going to go from 12 to, well, you can't go any lower than 9. Yes, but still 9 basis points on $250 million is a lot of money. And they're never going to not charge you. You're always going to have something. And mind you, I'm not even talking about if they even gave you a payout or not. Okay. But that number always stays. That is truly it's a fixed floating cost, not a variable cost. It's a fixed floating cost that I think that's a silent killer that nobody ever thinks about. It's like having so much granulated sugar in going to McDonald's or whatever. That's the silent killer. It tastes great, but guess what?
Yes, I think that's a good example too, because what happens is, but this is just I look at this, and I think you're on the right side of history as we're going there, and from a business development standpoint, okay? And the reason I say that is one of the things that come through is less but better. You say you're actually charging, especially as you get larger, you're seeing the economies of scale, which is every business needs to find, right? But those that you're working with get to see that sooner, and it looks like less because it is literally less fees, but it's better because it's more focused on helping the advisor there. I'm just curious, what was really for the part of that said, man, there's got to be a better way? You've mentioned it, your side of really helping, I think cutting out the crap, but
any advisor that is listening to this, they've had the exact same thought. I used to work with a guy, and we would always say, this doesn't make any sense. Shouldn't there be a cap? Okay, so we started with that. He was like, shouldn't there be a cap? At some point, isn't it good enough for the firm that I work through to be collecting $250,000 off of my business? Isn't that enough? And it starts with that. How much is enough? Okay. And again, I'm very libertarian. I'm a capitalist. I'm not saying that you shouldn't pay for things. Okay. But why we started thinking about it through that lens of like, why isn't there a cap? After I've given to firm XYZ $150,000, you're not getting anything in value. After that, there's no value there. Like, it hits a limit. There's nothing else. A gentleman I talked to runs a really great shop out of Texas. He took a trip to Japan, and he hit the nail on the head here. Is that so? Like in Dallas, you buy a cup of coffee, it is $6, and it's okay. He's in Japan, he buys a cup of coffee for $1.50. And it's like the best cup of coffee he's ever had in his life. Yeah. And the question is, why is that? That's because culturally they say, if you have spent the money, you must have value for the price paid. So I'm sure if we went to Japan and we bought a $6 cup of coffee, that is going to be the most eloquently prepared, beautifully refined, hand ground from the spring waters of Mount Fuji cup of coffee. Okay. So coming back to this point of why I'm going down that rabbit hole is that we started with this idea of capping fees, but then as a business owner, I was like, well, but we don't want to cap our fee, right? We don't want to say, nope, no more, because that's just irresponsible. But we want to have a level of control or something that we could directly point to and say, for value for cost. So as you grow, we still have to do this work, but our work for you does not grow exponentially like it does for some reason, the way it does everywhere else. So how about we just work on this model of volume pricing and give you breakpoints at levels of volume? That's it. We're not going to cap it. My thumbs up went up again. We can't cap it. We understand that, but we can at least levelize it to then provide value for cost paid.
Yeah.
That's how we got there. Is we just got fed up. We're just like, this is stupid.
Well, and this is how new models, this is how innovation happens, right?
Yep.
As we see the problem, we get fed up and we're like, let's fix it, which puts you in a position of finding new ways to work. Just like we're going to use a cell phone analogy, they've developed new ways to, cell phone plans are a lot different than they were in the 90s, right?
Very.
And thank God. So what do you think, if you were to get your crystal ball out, because you're well informed about how these models work, where do you think it's going? Maybe this is an unfair question. Sorry, I didn't tell you. We didn't talk about this ahead of time, but this is clearly a better development than the way most are set up from the quality perspective of the advisor closest to the client. I think that's not going to be argued, but what does that mean next?
Well, so we don't know. I don't know 100%, but I could say what we look at, I think we are positioned, maybe this is the future. We are positioned to absorb volume, provide value, but embrace this wave of artificial intelligence. Okay. Because all of these other firms that are doing what they are doing, they have armies of people that work there, because the classic approach to the industry is when something's not right or it doesn't work, or we bought this piece of software, is you just throw bodies at it and create workarounds off of the software that you bought.
Right.
Well, I really think that the future is you don't need a massive team. You don't throw humans at something. What you do is you're going to utilize your AI programs. You're going to have your own secured points of data, and you are going to leverage agents and skills and so forth to help you limit the amount of humans you throw at it, but then you can maximize efficiency and reduce your costs. So I know that's where it's going. I think for the industry at large, what it allows is there should be more people who can run their own firm, which that's fine. We work with people who say, no, I don't want to join you. I join your group. I just want to have my own RIA. That's totally cool. But then for the enterprises and so forth that exist, I think they're going to have a hard time, because they'll end up adopting AI. They'll end up firing all these people. And then all these people that have this great industry knowledge, they're going to then start something else and then strip that business out of that large enterprise. And the ones that can get up and running the fastest or that are the most nimble, those are the ones that are going to do well. So, all right, so I'm talking in a circle here conceptually, but I see it. I see what's going to happen. What I would like to have happen is for us to continually and steadily grow over the next 10 years. I do have total firm goals and so forth with the use and better efficiency with AIs. But I think what's going to happen is we're going to have a massive spike or consolidation in all of the firms we already know. And then that's just going to fall apart, because those firms will then terminate so many people that work there. And then those people are going to go start firms, and then it's all going to just crumble back down and be back at almost like a level playing field again. Like you're going to have this huge spike of consolidation of assets like we've never seen before. But then because those firms have reduced their staff, those staff members are then going to go and start their own firms or join other firms. And you'll see then the assets a little bit trailing behind, leave those firms, then join these smaller ones.
Yeah. Now I think, yeah, no, that makes sense. And so this is a little bit of a bench exercise of which each of us see a little different perspective on maybe what's coming down the future. So I want to go a little bit further with that, because I think what that ends up meaning is, and I want to get from you, Rob, what you think, because what that almost looks like is, as you're working with advisors, they get the efficiencies and all of this, and you're able to bring in that technology where appropriate. It actually helps the advisors connect more directly with their clients. They're more boutique experience, but they still got the support upstream, right?
Mhm.
But then what that means is it allows the advisors to really get into their niche that much more, because they can really say, hey, maybe you could have an advisor that's working with, let's say, this local beverage company, and they're big regional player, but they really know their retirement plan. And if you're in that company, you're really going to be awesome. Or maybe it's, hey, I work with the artistic type, or I work with accountants at XYZ, or whatever you're good at. Those niche quality for each niche goes up. And I think that's kind of what's embedded to what you're talking about. It all centers around quality work for that end user.
Mhm.
The niche part of it,
Rob,
yeah.
I just did a keynote last month where the whole premise or the theme of my keynote was the convergence of specialization in the age of AI in the insurance industry specifically. And I was in a room with the room was filled with specialists. These were elite brokers. They specialized in the architects, engineers, and design industry vertical. And these were the best of the best. So here I was talking to these guys, and I said, basically, in the age of AI, the one thing I challenged them to all think about is what will make you irreplaceable and what's going to make you indispensable to clients. Like, in other words, we're all talking about, you hear all the buzz in LinkedIn. You get really depressed if you go on LinkedIn because you feel like everyone's doing these amazing things and they're just
I don't go on anymore. I get FOMO, and I was like, I can't go on here. I can't do it at the rate that I did.
We just built 50 AI agents to replace 1,000 employees, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, man, that's so depressing. And going back to the point of this is what I stood up and shared with them was the value and the insights that I see by becoming an elite specialist broker and learning how to leverage the power of AI to do better work, but so that it can free you up to spend more time in front of prospects and your clients and do great work for them. And those are the ones that I think are going to rise to the top. And so what I think is happening in our industry too, and I think there's a lot of parallels between the financial services industry and insurance, is you're seeing a lot. I think the big guys are in trouble, to be honest. It's not me making a prediction. It's just, if I look into my crystal ball, I'm seeing more people having success breaking away from those larger, bigger firms and getting hyper focused on, I want to master this industry. I want to become really well known and the best of the best at serving architects and engineers. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to build a really profitable agency around serving that specific niche. I'm going to get all the resources, all the tools, all the technology, and the education and the training that I need to serve with excellence at the highest level and provide the most value to that industry. That's what I think is going to happen. And what's starting to happen, I'm actually seeing it. And I think it's those who can leverage the power of AI and know how to deploy those resources the right way, build automation, and build efficiencies inside their business. It makes you more profitable. That's what I'm seeing. And I got a really good response from everybody that what makes an average broker elite? And I think that's, to me, where the standard should be, and the standard of excellence and offering enormous value to clients.
Yeah, they're 100% correct. You're and everybody's talked about niche like all the time, but you know what? We're now in a world where that niche it's less niche, and now it's hyper focused, because you could say architect. What kind of architect? Structural architect. What kind of structural architect? Civil engineering, structural architecture. Okay. It's a lot of those. Okay. Now, and that's the lexicon in that group is very specific as well. Think about when people come into our industry and we have all of our words and the things that we say. And if you could talk the talk, you're like, no, all right. So same thing. Like I 100% agree with you. The ability to hyper specialize is where people can really make way.
But you know what, Andrew, I have a follow-up to that. When I'm advising business owners in my niche, in my space, and I think we're really freaking good at what we do because we do specialize. What's interesting is when I'm talking with them about, no, you can't right now, it takes too many resources and too much heavy lifting for you to be a generalist. You got to hunker down and get good at one thing and do it really well. And like you said, hyper niche, hyper focus. It scares a lot of these guys. It scares a lot of these people. And they actually get this FOMO. Oh my gosh, I can't turn away business. What would you say to that financial advisor who, if you were advising them to really hunker down and specialize and master their craft and do great work in one area, yet they're really nervous about building their book a business? What would you say to them to get rid of that fear or that anxiety of specializing? Because that can be really, that's a hard decision to make.
Yeah, I'd say, look, I give them two answers. One, take a look at a law firm, and anybody who comes in as an associate quickly falls into a specialization in law, patent law, contract law, securities law. Okay. But they all have the same license, right? They all have the same credential here, but they specialize quickly and they do very well and they know everything about that. If they're talking to someone and they say, hey, I want to know about, can you write me a will? That patent attorney is going to say no. They are going to actively turn down anything like that and give it to somebody else in the firm that does it. So there's a wonderful model to always look at for our industry to be better in general, is just look at a law firm. That's the proper structure way to do it, is you have to actively turn. That's the hardest thing to do, but look at a lawyer and look at how they turn down business. Okay. So that's one, be good at turning down business. And the second thing is, well, you have to affiliate with us because we're the only place from a profitability standpoint that it'll make sense for you as you're getting going. It's not going to you can't do that at Mass Mutual. It's not going to happen. You're not going to do that at Northwestern Mutual. It's not going to happen because it's too hard. You have to sell their product. You have to work in their constructs. Now, if that's what you want to do, well, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that they're bad companies, but if you say, I only want to work with these engineers well, guess what? You need to have the ability to have a very solid amount of profit for yourself to eat, survive, and grow, and the proper tools and technology, lexicon, services that niche needs. And you're not going to get that if you're stuck in an organization that, nope, they are a generalist, but they have a product to sell. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
It's wisdom right there. It's wisdom.
Yeah, it's focused on quality. I want to flip that coin over for a minute. And I think you were kind of going here, Andrew, but so once you understand what's quality for the client, and you're really able to focus in on that and continually improve to get to higher quality, which, by the way, a lot of that came from Japan. And we think of the Toyota production system here. We focus in studying, right?
That's right.
But
that's right. High efficiencies, just-in-time accounting. We need all of those things.
Absolutely. But how do you flip that over and then get to scale? How does that help you develop into scale? Because maybe if I'm an advisor and I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, I got a good niche. I know this is the quality for my clients, what that looks like. How do we relate that to scale and helping advisors scale?
Well, if you're working in a niche and you know everything there is to know, I've known there are, in any business, no matter what, there's always truisms. There's always going to be truisms. And Rob, I thought you were going to say this before, but you almost did it. But a phrase that I got from the very first manager I had in the business, Robert Matthews over at Raymond James, years and years ago, he'd say the successful advisor will do the things that the unsuccessful advisor won't. And so a fundamental truth of the business is that you can have all these things, you could be the most knowledgeable in your niche, but if nobody knows and if you don't go play in traffic, you'll never get the chance to scale. You just won't. Scaling happens when you have volume of leads coming in. That's the only way to do it. So it's one thing to say, hey, I want to work hard and I want to do this and I want to be the advisor to surgery ER doctors. Great. And I know everything about them and I know about their comp schedules and I know how this health system works and this. Great. How are you meeting them? It still comes down to that. What are you doing to see them face to face? That's what it comes down to. Nothing more than that, Chad. Nothing more. That's how you scale. It's still a contact sport. You still have to go out and meet them. Meet them. Use AI. Use a program like Slant CRM to go nuts and utilize LinkedIn and find all these things. But you still have to go and do the work.
We're going to keep going here, but we're going to need to wrap this up because we've got, we've got demand, right? We got things we need to help clients with. So
we got to go make some, we got to make some money. We got to do some service. We got to help everybody out.
That's right. That's right. So let's do this. Last question that we got to dig into here is, you have a unique leadership style, Andrew. I know this because the conversations we had, and I think it's a good one. Okay. But I kind of hear that coming through, and it's really just who you are, which is really cool. But what I'd love to understand from you, in your leadership style in the business, how do you want to be understood by the industry? How do you want to be known?
That's a great question. I know I'm like pausing on it. I'm a very nice person. I really have a lot of empathy for advisors. I do believe that there's a whole lot of work that any one individual also has to do. It's all about teamwork. You can't just rely on someone you can't expect somebody to do everything. Now, that doesn't mean you micromanage them or you hound them, but just a balance there. But what I would love aspirationally for people to know about me, about us, is that we might not be perfect, not the greatest. We don't make the most money, but I'd like people to know or believe that we get it right. That at the end of the day, we want to get it right. It's not about who's right. It's about what's right. And we want to get whatever it is. We want to get it right. That's what we want to be known as, is that we get it right.
That's awesome. I think that's a fantastic thing to be known by. And also what comes through that, Andrew, is your heart and your compassion and desire for, I'm not trying to, okay, yes, it sounds like I'm buttering you up, but really no, what it is coming through that for advisors, your passion for the advisory industry is brought right in there, and you bring a lot of heart to it. And this is why I've always honored to be on your podcast. Thank you so much for coming out here and hanging with us for a bit.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks a ton. I've really enjoyed this. It's gone longer than we expected, but that's because we're having a good time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we've got things to do. So do you want to roll us out? I think Rob's stuck. So
yeah, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for another day at the Advisor's Edge. And I think we got some really important things to think about. And Andrew, I love where you're leading the industry to a better process and helping the advisors doing the hard work at the front line.
Yeah.
We need more people like you. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. We've enjoyed working with Fox Professional Insurance, and we'll keep together. Maybe I'll come out to Portland and visit the new offices soon.
There we go. We'd love to have you. Always invited. All right.
Pleasure.
We'll see you later.
Thanks.
Okay.
We'll see you.
Thank you.